join me today at the wheel of a Peugeot 205 that I had never heard of. Today I'm taking a 205 Gentry out for a ride.
Proud to be sponsored by Diamond Bright, the car care products that have been keeping the furious fleet looking their best for a long time already. To find all you need to keep your car clean and protected, follow the link below to diamondbright.co.uk.
You know, one of the most amazing things about doing this job is that even after nearly 20 years of taking photos of cars and seeing almost every car you can imagine, I'm still sometimes surprised by finding something I'd never heard of. So join with me today with a big round of, I'm sorry, what now? For this, the 1992 Peugeot 205 Gentry. If you've never heard of the 205 Gentry, I will let you off because until about a week ago, neither had I. It was probably the most luxurious 205 ever built. The ticket price with the one option this car could be spec'd with was £12,800, which in 2020 money is about £26,500, which is pretty strong cash for a luxury super mini, which wasn't really a thing in the early 90s. So why does it exist? Why is it here? Tell me more. Fine, I will. This 205 Gentry was destined for Japan. They built 600 of them for the Japanese market in 2 colours. 300 of them were in Sorrento green, which is like a dark metallic racing green colour, and the other 300 were in this Aztec gold with matching Aztec gold wheels, which were unique to this car. Although when I say unique, I think they mean in this colour because we've been talking about this for a little while and we think these might be from a 405, possibly a GR, certainly not any other 205 model. But yeah, it's an interesting hybrid of bits. Let's take a look around. At first glance, or at a quick glance certainly, these are often confused with the GTI because it does have a lot of GTI parts around the car. These front lower spoilers, the front fogs, the side mouldings are all GTI stuff. You've even got the 2 little twin flashes of plastic up by the fuel filler cap, although there's no marking with an engine size on this particular car. Around the back it's all very discreet. We've got the Gentry badge, we've also got the reversing light and rear fog light, and of course 205 mud flaps, which would have been an option and everything else, but obviously standard on this car. Now under the bonnet things get interesting because although it has a lot of GTI appearance about it, it's got more in common with the SD-DT, which is kind of a luxury diesel version. Here under the bonnet we actually find a 1905cc or 1.9 litre XU5 petrol fuel injected engine taken from a GTI. However, it's G-tuned with a lighter camshaft, so it only makes 105 horsepower, giving it a 0 to 60 of 11.6, it is an automatic, and a top speed of 114. So despite the 1.9 litre engine, those performance figures make it more akin to the 1.6 GTI, which has got 106 horsepower, but does have a 0 to 60 of 8.7 and a top speed of 116. If this was the full fat 1.9 GTI engine, which you could change the camshaft over and turn it into that, it would then get 130 horsepower. Now with the manual gearbox, that gives it a 0 to 60 of around 7 seconds, which is pretty potent for a 1992. But of course, that automatic is probably the reason they went for the bigger engine, so more poke for the power loss through the sapping of that auto. This is not the kind of luxury you expect to find in a Peugeot 205. You've got these deep leather bucket seats which are fantastic. You've got wooden inserts in the door. You've got the sports steering wheel, the carpet up the doors. Oh, it's just fantastic. In fact, I can give you the full rundown of everything on this special edition. So we've got the 1905cc fuel injected engine. This is from the actual brochure from the car. 4-speed auto, we can see that there. Power steering, a choice of the 2 colours. Special alloy wheels, colour keyed on the Aztec gold car, not on the green car, that would look weird. The body colour rear panel, so that centre section where the Peugeot badge and the Gentry badge are, that's normally black on these things, but in this car, body coloured. Inserts to the side mouldings and bumpers, silver on Sorrento green, gold on Aztec gold, we saw that down the side. These are the GTI mouldings though. Black bumpers and side mouldings. Front spoiler with auxiliary driving lights, that's easy for you to say. Full leather trim, black on Sorrento green, tan with the Aztec gold car, which we have here. Polished wood door inserts, they say it's real wood. Now we start clutching at straws a little. Illuminated vanity mirrors. Yep, there we go. Electric for windows, that's a good thing. Remote control, central locking, quite impressive in 1992. Leather trimmed steering wheel, very nice. Additional carpet mats, 4-speaker Clarion PC300 stereo radio cassette, still here. Courtesy light delay when you shut the door, and there's one option on this car, one and only option, because they loaded it with everything else they could think of, and that is the full sliding sunroof, which someone optioned on this car, giving it a total price of £12,836 plus the sunroof. So this car would have been over £13,000 new. So as I say, about 27 grand, which puts it in the territory of a nice Audi A1, a smart Mini. In today's world, a luxury super Mini is a thing. So you can downsize from your large car to a small car and not feel you're being shortchanged. But in the early 90s, that really wasn't a thing. This is the smallest car in the Peugeot lineup, but with the most trim virtually of anything. This is quite fantastic. Let's have a quick look around and see what we've got. Well, let's start on the doors. Well, this is, I think it's vinyl. I don't think this is a leather door card. I think it's like a leather effect vinyl door card. All very, very square and angular. Got a big chunky door pull, matching square and angular door handle to open it. And I don't know if this would have been two colours originally or if they've just faded to different shades of brown over the years. I think looking at this kind of insert in the door pull, these were actually intended to be two different shades. Then we've got a big square door speaker as well, so everything is just chunky squares. And above that we've got our remote handle thingy for twisting the door mirror outside. We've got them on both sides of the car, so proper luxury. Down the bottom we've got a fairly good sized door bin, which is quite unusual in the early 90s. And mounted in the front of that, quite cleverly positioned actually, down here just where your hand kind of falls naturally, we've got the two electric window switches. Just the one on the passenger side obviously, but interestingly here, sort of round circle, this is the blank for where the manual keep fit windows would have been if you had a lower spec car. Moving across to the dashboard, there are lots of squares, triangles, angles. Yeah, you can see why they chose the Aztec name for some of the special editions, because it just looks like an Aztec pyramid with all the blockiness going on. A big square instrument binnacle, a big triangle thing going on here, and a big sort of slopey area into a trough above the glove box just there, so you can have soup du jour with a straw on the move. No cup holder, but you can have some hot chocolate or a soup from over here, and no actual good cup holder. No cup holders at all, and the tea shelf is, well, fairly minimal as well. If I acquire a cup, you can maybe balance something in your soup trough, but that's not really advisable. There's just about, well, not really room to put anything on there. There's a large flat area here, so small aperitifs perhaps, and small cake items, but a confectionery can be balanced on here when driving, but you know, nothing really for your cup. This is a very poor show. I'm going to give this like I was going to say a 1 because you've got the soup trough, otherwise it'd be a 0. Very poor tea shelf score. And looking at this kind of big square and angular instrument binnacle, this triangular bit here, it looks like the buildings in the set of Blade Runner as they're flying across the city. It's yeah, they can be the big exhaust vents from the side of a massive building. Just a massive flying car city going on. So let's have a look around and see what we've got. First of all, the instrument binnacle. As I say, it's a big square thing jutting out of the dashboard with this plateau in front of it. And we've got a lot of stuff going on inside the dial area itself. In the centre we've got the two main dials, the speedo and rev counter, going up to 145 miles an hour. Car obviously doesn't go that fast. We've got the Velia rev counter, redlining at 6,000, going all the way up to 8 in the end. And at either end we've got vertically mounted sweepy dials. On the left hand side, oil and fuel. On the right hand side, water temperature and oil temperature. And down the centre we've got all our other warning lights. Now for a car of the 90s, and bear in mind this is the absolute pinnacle of the range, there's a lot of warning lights just there, so you can really take your pick from what you want to be warned about. To the right of that we've got one of the 4 big square very adjustable air vents, rocks out on its little pivot to give you forward blowage, and down below that we've got a big pistol pocket, open storage area for stuff, very practical. And to the left of that we've got a blanking triangle which looks like it should do something but it doesn't, and just towards you from that we've another larger plate with a little finger touch thingy. Push that, swing it open, you've got one of those kind of velvety soft touch areas with a coin slot holder of course, and a little lower area for putting, I don't know, credit cards, makeup, tiny items that you don't want rattling around the dashboard. That's quite a useful little thing, that. Let's get back to the in front of the driver area. We have our large speedo steering wheel plateau, which we can put small items in. Okay, but below the plateau, which we won't use for balancing phones on because that is very dangerous, they're both nice round drums, plastic at the bottom, rubberized at the top for tactility. The one on the right is for your front and rear wipers, and the one on your left is your indicators, lights, and most importantly, horn. Blimey! That's a horn and a half. That is a horn from a much bigger car. This car is clearly punching above its weight in terms of hornage. Wow. I'm still slightly shaken by that. I wasn't expecting that at all. Then we have the nice leather rimmed steering wheel I talked about in the brochure. This feels lovely. This car's only got 19,500 miles on it, so it's still feels kind of fresh and unworn, and this kind of GTI-esque centre section makes the whole thing feel very rally sporty. You look down at the auto and that whole illusion goes away completely. But we'll just keep focusing on the funky steering wheel and the 140 mile an hour speedo for now. That does feel really good in your hand. That's a really nice grippy wheel. Feels perfect actually. Well done, Peugeot. Now over to the left we've got all our column of stuff. First of all, two more big vents, same as on the sides, below which are three giant dials for controlling your airflow, direction, fan speed, temperature, the usual gubbins. No air conditioning in this car sadly, so just the three dials there. Below which we've got a panel with three chunky buttons. I love these kind of textured, half light, half texture, circular end of a oil drum button motif they have going on here. Hazard lights, rear screen heater, fog lights, so we can have fog lights and rear screen heater and hazard lights working. They look very cool. Underneath which we've got ashtray, because obviously it's French, it's going to have a big ashtray with a 12-volt socket inside the foldy outfit, little digital clock, and underneath that the radio they mentioned in the brochure. I love this. I do love an 80s and 90s cassette radio. They look so cool. This is the Clarion PC300 and it's Peugeot branded, so you can tell it came with the car even if you didn't know the history of this particular one. There are 4 speakers, obviously there's 2 in the front doors and there's 2 in the seat posts as well, so pretty decent sound. 4-speaker sound was, again, quite a big deal. You forget how stuff has moved on so rapidly from the early 90s when a 4-speaker stereo was still, you know, a talking point. Now below that we've got what looks like it should be a folding out opening area or a cubby hole or something, but it's not. It's just a sculpted bit of plastic and a little tray just small enough not to put anything in, and then the gear shift, the auto box, park, reverse neutral, and then 4, 3, 2, 1. It's just numbers. It's not got the whole drive 1, 2, 3 or anything. Yeah, then finally we've got up here in the ceiling our tilt slide sunroof, the one option available on this model. So yeah, very exciting to have that. A bit chilly to open it today, it's about 3 degrees outside. Right, let's have a quick look in the back of this thing. These seats do flip forward in quite an interesting manner, so they give you a lot of access to climb into the car, for quite cleverly hinged. Once they're back, it's all a little bit tighter on your knees, and your footroom is not that impressive either. But you've got fairly good arm space. If there's only 2 of you sat in the back, it feels like 2 big bucket seats, because these seats do kind of tip and fold forward to make lots of space in the boot. However, if there are 3 seat belts, and if there are 3 of you, it would be a bit cramped. You've got a big sort of buckety pocket thing on either side of the car, plus a little ashtray in both sides as well. Let's say 3 seat belts, speakers in the seat post, poppy outside open windows and grab handles, so it's not exactly all doom and gloom in here. And you have got this lovely leather as well, so it's really comfortable. Feels a bit cold at first, but soon gets nice once you're in the car. And of course the headroom, because the Peugeot 205 is quite a square blocky shape, headroom is fairly decent in here, despite the sunroof taking sort of that much out of the top. Now, this is an impressively sized boot for a Super Mini, even by today's standards. So going back to the 1980s when this car was launched, this is huge. It's quite impressive, and you really could take anything you wanted to the dump. If you were trying to dispose of a business rival, this could be done quite effectively, even in a 205. They really were covering every base. And as I mentioned, the seats do fold 50-50, so you can make it into a massive area. You've got a little courtesy light over there. Because this is the Gentry, it's all carpeted in this lovely tan carpet, which matches the interior of the car, makes the whole thing just feel very luxurious, and they give the car an aura of hush when you're on the road as well. Spare wheel isn't underneath the carpet, it's slung underneath the car, as they were on Peugeots of this era, so making sure that if you do get a puncture, it will be in the rain, it will be dirty and muddy, so it's even less pleasant changing the spare wheel than it would have been otherwise. Thanks, Peugeot. Right, let's go for a drive. You can tell this is a true retro because there's no any kind of handles for closing the boot. Now that 1.9 litre engine, even though it is detuned, does give this car a fair bit of poke. I know I always rag on autos as being sluggish and slow, but with that much power on such a tiny car, this is actually pretty decent off the line. Because don't forget, 104 horsepower, 105 horsepower in a car this tiny and this light is still pretty good 28 years on. That's not bad going. Oh, the car handles nicely as well. Peugeot 205s always handle really well, even in the most basic form. And the GTI did get a bit of an uprate in the front suspension setup, which sadly this car didn't get. It's still got the standard running setup, but that does mean it's more comfortable than the slightly harder sprung, harder running GTI, which is a good thing for the nature of the car. Don't forget, this is all about luxury, comfort, enjoying the drive. It's meant to be effortless. That's why big engine, detuned, automatic gearbox, power steering, power brakes. This is as comfy and nice and luxury as you're going to get in a 205. And it looks good too. I mean, you wouldn't think a pale gold 205 would be a good looking car, but this actually does look pretty decent, doesn't it? There is a bit of a, not a misnomer exactly, but a lot of people do seem to think that 205 was actually styled by Pininfarina, but it wasn't. Only the convertible was converted or restyled by Pininfarina. The actual original styling of the car was all in-house. It was done by a guy called Gerald Walter, who was one of Peugeot's own in-house designers. But looking around this pretty amazing interior, that was also one of motoring design's greats. That was Paul Bracq, who you may have heard of, as he designed an awful lot of the best Mercedes of the 20th century, among many other things. A lot of nice Peugeots as well. So he was involved in that. So some big names lending a lot of weight to this beautiful interior and exterior. The car does cruise very nicely. Doing 40 miles an hour, 2,500 RPM, just ticking over with the auto box doing its thing. Power steering is very light actually on this. It's the kind of car you wouldn't necessarily think you needed power steering on, but nonetheless it does have it. You do feel like you're sitting a little bit high in it, to be honest, and there's no way of adjusting the seats down that I've found to make it sit any lower, but the seats are so comfy. These are proper armchairs. But if there was such a thing as a sports armchair, this would be it. There we go. Hit 45 miles an hour and the gear is just flipped up one more ratio, so I guess we're in fourth now. Described in the brochure as a powerful automatic transmission. I'm not quite sure how automatic is powerful, but this one is apparently, so yay, go you. And this car is currently for sale at Stone Cold Classics at Rootham in Kent. Check out the website and the link in the description below for more details, because it is pretty impressive and they've got some amazing stuff for sale down there as well, all of which I would love to take home, but I can't. A bit of background on the 205 itself. Peugeot needed to replace the 104, which was dating back to the early 70s, looking very much long in the tooth. But Peugeot weren't really known as masters of the small car. In 1978 they took over Chrysler Europe, which contained the Roots group, so they got things like the Simca 1100 and the Hillman Imp, so a lot of small car knowledge, know-how, packaging, handling information, so they really kind of stepped up that game instantly in one fell swoop, just with that quick takeover. And so when the 205 came along, they used all that knowledge, all the information, the styling, design, ideas that would have gone into the new Simcas, Hillmans, other Roots cars, and put it into this one instead. So notably the Peugeot 309 was going to be, was it a Talbot? I think it was a Talbot. Talbot Arizona I think it was going to be called, or Simca Arizona. Certainly it wasn't going to be a Peugeot, but after the takeover they took the completed car and converted it into a Peugeot, which is why it kind of doesn't really fit in the styling and sizing characteristics of the rest of the range. Wow, lots of turns lock to lock, rolls a bit through the corner, whee! What a fun little car. So when the car was launched, it really was a hit. It was massively popular with buyers, and in 1983, the year of its launch, it actually won What Car's European Car of the Year? Coty, as they call it. So yeah, why do we even have a Gentry in the first place? Well, as I say at the beginning, it was a 600 car order for the Japanese market, but that order got cancelled, and the cars had already been built though, so what were they going to do with them? So lucky us, we got them. Now I don't know how many are left, I couldn't find survival figures, but with only 600 to start with and not that many 205s left on the road, I can't imagine there are more than, well, single or double figures at best. Searching the forums, I found one or two others which had been modified a few years ago. The interiors were nowhere near as nice as this. The carpets were worn. Obviously 205s rust like crazy. This one though is absolutely immaculate. It came from Northern Ireland, as you might be able to tell from the number plate. Less than 20,000 miles. No idea how it was used so sparingly for 28 years. But wow, what an amazing car. But this is now a segment which is a real thing. People do downsize to A1s, Minis, this is the DS line from Citroën, all these other small cars which fit better in tax and emissions and that kind of thing, which is now the popular thing to do. 30 odd years ago, that really wasn't a thing. But like any 205, it rides so nicely. This road is particularly bad along just here. And even now, there's just the faintest little jitter from the suspension. The engine's not too loud. The leather steering wheel feels good. Seats are comfy. Loads of headroom and incredible visibility. There really is a lot to like about this car. Everything from the way you just sink into the seats when you climb in, to the relaxingness of the gold everything. This is just ultimate luxury in a way I never thought possible. It really is kind of a curious mix of things in the car. Bit GTI, bit high level, posh car, bit of everything really, and just so different. I'm really enjoying driving this. If I needed a very high spec, comfortable, everyday, just cruising car, this would be ideal. So easy to drive as well. Good brakes, easy auto, power steering, perfect. And the lovely nimbleness, the light feeling of a 205. And it just feels so light on the road, because 205s, they do feel incredibly light always. And this is certainly no exception. Does have that wonderful 205 feeling that you can just sling it into a bend and it will just grip and grip and grip, because they do. They're great little cars. I might have almost found an automatic I don't hate. Wow. Well, thank you for joining me today in this ride out in this ridiculously rare, never even heard of it before, Peugeot 205. I hope you've enjoyed the ride. I certainly have. I'll open my eyes to something new and interesting. If you've enjoyed this, please hit like and subscribe as always. That's what matters to us YouTube people. Look at the links in the description. There's all kind of other fun stuff to do and see and play with. And hit the bell notification if you'd like to see when the next one of these is coming out. And yeah, join me again soon when I'm driving something completely different.